Initiating broadcast.
I want to start today with a premise that, on the surface, it sounds almost insulting to the entire global finance industry. It's a really bold claim, but the data, well, it actually backs it up.
I think I know where you're going with this. You're going to tell me that finance is basically the only field where a total amateur can sometimes beat the pros.
Exactly. I mean, think about it, right? If I just grab a random guy off the street, give him a scalpel and say, go perform heart surgery, he is not going to do better than a Harvard-trained cardiologist. It's just impossible.
No, thankfully. Or like an engineer designing a bridge. You want the expert every single time.
But in investing, in managing money, a completely untrained amateur can, and this is the key, often does drastically outperform the most educated, most sophisticated experts in the room. And we've got the perfect story for this. It's the janitor and the executive.
This is from Morgan Housel's work. It's such a perfect frame for what we're diving into today.
So let's set the scene. In one corner, you've got Ronald Reed. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant in rural Vermont. And when I say rural, I mean this guy was the definition of low-key. He lived in a tiny house. He chopped his own firewood for fun.
And was known for being, incredibly frugal.
Right. And then in the other corner, you have Richard Scone. This guy is the total opposite. Harvard-educated, MBA. He was a vice chairman at Merrill Lynch. One of those 40 under 40 guys.
The complete archetype of financial success.
Totally. He retired in his 40s to be a philanthropist, lived in an 18,000 square foot mansion that had 2 elevators, and this is my favorite detail.
The pool.
The indoor swimming pool with a see-through cover so people could dance over the water.
It just paints such a picture, doesn't it? So fast forward. Ronald Reed, the janitor, he dies in 2014. He's 92, and he makes international headlines. Why?
Oh.
Because this guy, who literally swept floors for a living, had a net worth of over $8 million.
$8 million! Which he then left to his local library and his hospital. Just an amazing legacy.
So meanwhile, what happened to Richard Scone, the executive?
He went bankrupt. The 2008 financial crisis it completely wiped him out. He was leveraged to the hilt. And that massive mansion with the pool cover, it was sold in a foreclosure auction for like pennies on the dollar.
It's just a brutal contrast.
Mm-hmm.
But the lesson isn't that the janitor was smarter than the executive. Scone definitely had a higher IQ, better education, better access to everything.
So what was the difference?
Behavior. That's the whole thesis of this deep dive. Financial success isn't a hard science like physics, where there are strict formulas. It's a soft skill. It's all about psychology.
Ronald Reed had patience. Scone had greed.
That's it in a nutshell. Reed waited. Scone rushed.
And that's what makes this so fascinating. We spend all this time trying to learn the math of money, interest rates, PE ratios, whatever, but we ignore the psychology part. And it really seems like the psychology is doing most of the heavy lifting.
It absolutely is. And if we're going to talk about things that are out of our control, things that aren't math, we have to start with the role of luck.
Oh, this is a big one. Investors hate admitting this. We all love to think, I worked hard, I studied the charts, I earned this.
Right. But the source material brings up this incredible case study with Bill Gates. Now, obviously, Bill Gates is a genius. He works incredibly hard. No one's taking that away from him.
Of course not.
But the math behind his early success is it's staggering.
You're talking about his high school.
Yes, Lakeside School in Seattle. In 1968, this was pretty much the only high school in the entire world that had a computer.
Most colleges didn't even have that then.
Exactly. So here's this 13-year-old Bill Gates with basically unlimited access to a computer when that was just unheard of. The source breaks down the stats. In 1968, there were about 303 million high school-age kids in the world.
Okay.
And only about 300 of them went to Lakeside.
So wait, you're saying he had a literal 1 in a million head start?
A 1 in a million shot. Gates himself says it. He said, if there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft. That's pure luck. But here's the part of the story that really stopped me in my tracks. The other side of that coin.
This is about Kent Evans.
Yes. I hadn't heard this story before. Kent Evans was Gates's best friend at Lakeside. They were a duo. Gates said Kent was the smartest kid in the class, just as obsessed with computers, just as ambitious. Their plan was to conquer the world together.
But we don't hear about a Microsoft co-founder named Kent Evans.
No, because before they graduated high school, Kent died in a mountaineering accident.
Oh, that's just tragic.
It is. And statistically, the odds of a high school student dying on a mountain are roughly 1 in a million.
Wow. So you have these two kids sitting right next to each other, same drive, same intelligence. One of them catches a 1 in a million tailwind called luck.
And the other catches a 1 in a million headwind called risk.
They're doppelgangers.
Exactly. Luck and risk
Yep.
are the same force, just,
Yeah.
moving in opposite directions. And the takeaway here is so important. When we look at successful people, we need to realize that not all of it is hard work. And when we fail, we have to realize not all of it is laziness.
It's about cutting yourself some slack, forgiving yourself.
Yes, forgive your failures and be humble about your successes, because sometimes the universe just rolls the dice and it has nothing to do with your spreadsheet.
Speaking of spreadsheets, let's talk about the one math concept that everyone thinks they get, but almost nobody really feels. Compounding.
The Ice Age effect.
Yes, I love this analogy because when you think of an ice age, you think of, bitter, freezing cold. But the science shows that ice ages aren't actually caused by colder than normal winters.
Right. It's intuitive to think big ice equals big freeze. But geologists figured out that ice ages are caused by cool summers.
Okay, explain that mechanism.
It's all about accumulation. So if you have a cool summer, the snow from last winter doesn't melt completely. It sticks around. Then the next winter comes and piles more snow on top of it. Then another cool summer preserves that new layer.
And if you repeat that for, 10,000 years?
You get a continental glacier that's 2 miles thick. It's not about the force of the cold. It's about the lack of melting. It's the accumulation being left undisturbed.
And that maps perfectly to building wealth. We're always looking for that big freeze, the 10-bagger stock, the crypto moonshot.
But you don't need that massive force. You just need a cool summer. You just need consistency. You need to stop interrupting the compounding.
The numbers on Warren Buffett really drive this home. His net worth is, about $84.5 billion?
Something like that.
Do you know how much of that came after his 65th birthday?
It's something insane, like 81.5 billion of it.
It is insane. Practically his entire fortune came after he was eligible for Social Security.
Because he started investing when he was 10 years old. If Buffett had been a normal person, started at 30, retired at 60 to play golf, you would have never, ever heard of him.
So his real secret wasn't just being a genius investor. It was being an investor for a very, very long time.
His secret was time. The book he should write is called Shut Up and Wait.
Shut up and wait. I'd buy that. But here's the thing. Waiting is hard. Staying in the game is hard. Which brings up the difference between getting wealthy and staying wealthy.
Oh, they're two completely different skills. And people confuse them all the time. Getting money requires optimism. It requires taking risks, putting yourself out there, believing the future is bright.
But staying wealthy
requires pretty much the opposite. It requires a bit of paranoia.
Paranoia. That sounds kind of unhealthy.
Well, in finance, it's a survival mechanism. You have to have this constant fear that what you've made can be taken away just as quickly. You need to be frugal. You need to accept that the world is totally unpredictable.
The book mentions Jesse Livermore. He's such a tragic figure.
He really is, one of the greatest traders ever. In 1929, when the market crashed and everybody was ruined, he was shorting the market. He made the equivalent of $100 million in a single day.
So he had the getting wealthy part down cold.
Better than anyone.
Yeah.
But he didn't have the staying wealthy skill. He was so confident, took bigger and bigger risks, and eventually he lost it all. He died broke, took his own life. It's a sad story.
And you compare that to someone like Michael Moritz at Sequoia Capital. They've been at the top of the VC world for decades.
And when someone asked him why, Moritz said, "We've always been afraid of going out of business." That's the paranoia. That's the survival mindset.
So the real goal isn't just to make the highest return possible.
No.
It's to be financially unbreakable.
Exactly. Because if you're unbreakable, you can stick around long enough for that ice age compounding to do its magic. If you get wiped out like Hugh Scone or Livermore, the clock just resets back to zero. You're out of the game.
This whole idea of survival, it leads to a deeper question, I think. Like, why are we even doing this? What is all this money for? Because I think a lot of us just chase a number without really thinking about it.
This is probably my favorite insight from the whole book. The highest dividend money pays. It's not a yacht. It's not a fancy watch. It's freedom.
Freedom to do what, though?
Freedom to control your time. There was this psychologist, Angus Campbell, who did this huge study on what makes people happy. He looked at everything: income, where you live, your job. And the single strongest common denominator for happiness was having a strong sense of controlling your own life.
The ability to wake up in the morning and just say, I can do whatever I want today.
That's it. That feeling is worth more than any luxury good you can buy. Money's greatest value is that it gives you options. The option to take a sick day without panicking. The option to quit a job you hate. The option to retire when you want.
But we trade that freedom for stuff so often. We buy the big house or the fancy car, and that actually locks us into the high-stress job. It reduces our freedom.
And that leads right into the man in the car paradox.
Oh, this one hit me hard. The author talks about when he used to work as a valet, right?
Yeah. He'd see these guys roll up in Ferraris or Rolls Royces, and, naturally he'd just stare at the car. And he'd imagine himself driving it.
We've all done that. You see a nice car and think, man, I'd look cool in that.
But here's the key. He never once looked at the driver. He didn't care who the guy was. He was just using that guy's car to fuel his own fantasy about himself.
So the driver buys the car thinking, everyone's going to admire me for this.
But the people looking don't admire the driver. They don't even see the driver. It's a total mismatch. The book puts it so well. Humility and kindness generate more respect than horsepower.
That's a great quote, and it really helps explain the difference between being rich and being wealthy, because before reading this, I kind of thought they were the same thing.
Most people do, but the argument is that they're basically opposites. Rich is your current income. It's visible. It's the peacock feathers. You know someone is rich because you see them spending money on the car, the house, the clothes. Wealth is hidden. Wealth is the income you don't spend. It's the money in the bank. It's your retirement account just compounding quietly in the background. It's the option to buy something, but choosing not to.
The analogy of diet versus exercise really clicked for me.
It's perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exercise is like being rich. You do the work and everyone can see the result. Wow, look at them run. Look at those muscles. But wealth is like dieting. It's the cookie you didn't eat.
And it's really hard to brag about the cookie you didn't eat.
Exactly. You can't show it off. And that's why it's so hard to emulate wealthy people. We learn by imitation. We see the rich person spending, so we copy the spending. But we can't see the wealthy person saving, so we don't copy the saving.
We're copying the wrong behaviors because the right behaviors are invisible.
That's it, precisely.
So if we're trying to build this invisible wealth, we need a strategy. And the usual advice is, be rational. Be a robot. Just do what the spreadsheet tells you to do.
And this book argues that's terrible advice.
Wait, really? Being rational is bad?
It's not that it's bad. It's just that it's unrealistic. We aren't spreadsheets. We are emotional, hormonal, messy human beings. If you try to be purely rational, you're probably going to fail because you're not accounting for your own psychology. The goal shouldn't be to be rational. It should be to be reasonable.
Okay, so break that down for me. What's the real difference?
Okay, think about the fever analogy. Biologically, a fever is a rational defense. Your body heats up to kill an infection. So a purely rational approach would be to just suffer through it, let the body do its thing.
But I'm miserable. I'm shivering. I want some Tylenol.
Exactly. Taking Tylenol isn't perfectly rational from a biological standpoint. It might even prolong the illness a bit.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel better, so it's reasonable.
Ah, okay. So how does that apply to money?
Well, let's say the math says you should have 100% of your money in stocks, because over 30 years, that gives you the highest return. That's the rational advice. But if the market crashes 50% next year, are you going to panic?
If I see half my life savings just disappear, yeah, I'm panicking. I might sell everything just to stop the bleeding.
And then the rational strategy has failed because it ignored your emotions.
Yeah.
A reasonable strategy might be, you know what, I'm going to hold some cash or I'm going to pay off my mortgage. Mathematically, paying off a low-interest mortgage might look like a bad move compared to stock returns.
Right.
But if owning your home outright gives you the peace of mind to stick with your other investments during a crash, then it's the best financial decision you can possibly make.
It's the sleep at night test.
That is the only benchmark that actually matters. The best portfolio isn't the one with the highest return. It's the one you can stick with when things get ugly.
Speaking of ugly, I want to touch on how we see losses. The idea of a fee versus a fine really shifted my thinking.
This is such a great mental hack. It changes everything. When the market drops, and it will drop, most people see that loss as a fine, like a speeding ticket. They think, I did something wrong, I'm being punished.
And when you get a fine, your instinct is to stop doing the thing that got you the fine. You slow down, you sell your stocks.
Exactly. But the stock market isn't punishing you. That volatility is just the fee. It's the cost of admission. Think of it like Disneyland.
Okay, I'm at the gates.
You pay $100 to get into the park. You don't stand there, look at your empty wallet and go, oh, no, I've been fined.
No, I paid a fee to get the experience.
Right. In the market, the experience is superior long-term returns. The fee you pay for that is the volatility, the uncertainty, the occasional stomach ache. If you can see a market drop as a fee instead of a fine, you stop trying to avoid it. You just budget for it.
That actually makes downturns feel less personal. It's just the price of the ticket.
And realizing that helps you avoid the last big trap we should talk about, the bubble.
This is about playing your own game, right?
Yes. Bubbles form because long-term investors start taking their cues from short-term traders. We see a stock going to the moon and think, wow, those people buying must know something I don't.
The example of Yahoo in 1999 comes to mind. It was trading at these insane valuations.
Right. But think about it from a day trader's perspective. For them, buying Yahoo at a ridiculous price wasn't stupid. They just needed the price to go up for like an hour. They're playing a very short, very different game.
But if I'm a long-term investor saving for retirement in 20 years, and I see that trader buying and think, oh, the smart money's buying Yahoo, I should too.
Then you're in deep trouble. You're playing a long-term game using the signals from a short-term game. The price that makes sense for a day trader is a total disaster for a long-term holder. You have to know your own time horizon and just ignore the noise from people who aren't playing your game.
Stay in your lane. Don't let the day trader dictate your retirement strategy.
You got it.
So let's bring this all together. We've covered a ton of ground. We've got the janitor versus the executive, proving that behavior beats your IQ.
We've got luck and risk as two sides of the same coin. So give yourself a break when things don't go perfectly.
The Ice Age effect, that wealth is just consistency over a long, long time. And the goal is freedom, not status.
And be reasonable, not just rational. If paying off the mortgage helps you sleep, just do it.
And view volatility as a fee, not a fine. Now, before we go, I want to leave everyone with one final thought from the research that I found. Well, kind of haunting. It's called the end of history illusion.
Yeah. This is crucial for anyone making a long-term plan.
So we all recognize that we've changed in the past. If I look at who I was at 20, I'm a completely different person now. My taste in music, my goals, my hobbies, they've all changed.
We can all acknowledge our past evolution. But for some reason, we have this illusion that the person we are right now is the finished product. We think, okay, this is me, and I want these same things in 30 years.
But the data says we won't. We're going to change just as much in the future as we have in the past.
Which creates a huge problem for financial planning, right?
Yeah.
If you make this super rigid plan that only works for your current self, you might be setting your future self up for misery. You might be saving like crazy for a goal you no longer even care about.
So what's the answer?
Room for error. You need flexibility in your plan. You have to avoid the extremes. Don't lock yourself into a life that requires you to be the exact same person in 30 years because, well, that person doesn't exist yet. Give yourself the financial slack to change your mind.
Room for error. That feels like a very reasonable place to end. Finance isn't about being perfect. It's about surviving long enough to get lucky.
Yeah, maybe, just maybe, being a little more like the janitor and a little less like the executive.
But maybe don't fix your coat with safety pins. That might be taking it a bit too far.
Agreed. Yeah.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.